All right, get out group 3 FRQs. So group 3 FRQs, we're looking at labs. This is when they ask you a question, design an experiment kind of thing. So these are the things where you just got to practice a couple of these. These were the ones I found. So I want to give you some chances to practice these. They don't come up often, but they do come up enough. So two of the big ones you want to make sure you hit. What are you measuring specifically in this experiment? Tell me, I am measuring the height. How are you doing it? I am using a ruler to measure from the ground to where the marble starts. What am I measuring? How am I doing it? These are big points in describing the lab. This is kind of like writing the procedure for a lab. This is what I'm doing. This is how I'm doing it. Okay? And then at the end, you will need a detailed account of what you're going to do with this information once you have it. So typically, this is like step 1 is doing this. Step 2 is, show me the calculations you're going to make. And then typically after this, they'll ask you, hey, what would happen if this happened? You'd be like, I don't know. So if you think back to the example we did with this, we rolled a marble across the table. It flew off the end of the table and landed. And I might have asked you some questions like, instead of a marble rolling now, I took like a little Hot Wheels car. Rolled the Hot Wheels car down a ramp, and then it flew off the end of the table, and I marked where it hit the ground. And some questions I might say is, oh man, it landed short of where you thought it was going to land. Why is that? Well, those are the easy ones, because it's friction. Slowed it down. Point. The ones that get you is like, why did it land further than you thought it did? Okay? They are always going to ask the one where friction is not the answer. So just keep that in mind, that they're always going to ask the one that it's a little harder to explain. And sometimes the easiest explanation still gets you credit, like, oh, I gave it a push at the start. Really? I thought you said you were just going to like release it from the top, but you pushed it? Well, I must have. They will give you credit for that. So keep that in mind. Maybe the car had some little wings, a little aerodynamic, so it got some air and flew through the air a little bit, so it landed a little further than you thought it would. Something along those lines. All right, so there's typically those steps. What are you measuring? How are you measuring it? How do you do the calculations to find what you want to find? And then, was it high or was it low? Explain, justify your answers. Now, sometimes they'll give you a list of materials you can use, little check boxes. For your reference, you could check them all and use them all. Typically what they will do is they will just say, well, they're going to need at least these 3 things. This is the minimum. You could come up with a big experiment to do the same thing with multiples, but these are the 3 minimums. So typically that is how those work. So without much more, I want you to try those out. Check the scoring guide. Focus on what they're putting points on, because that is really going to kind of lead you back to these questions. What are you measuring? How are you measuring it? Detailed account of your calculations. What you want to be careful of is, I see people just writing, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna get that, and that's what's gonna do it. And you didn't tell me what specifically you were measuring, how you were measuring it. You got to be very specific about answering those questions when you do it. All right.